a todos e a todas. Como nós antecipamos no início desse fórum, nós faremos essa sessão em inglês, cortesia a 3 dos nossos panelistas que preferem falar inglês do que o nosso português. So, welcome to all of you. Good morning. We have some very distinguished representatives of 5 major oil companies today with us. And in a time where we are thinking about Christmas shopping, we are in the time of rounding up the strategic planning for the next year, for the forthcoming years. And you guys who work with the oil industry, you understand how important, how vital it is to do a proper planning, to do a proper assessment on the next events to come, so we are not caught off-handed when something unexpected happens. I can recall all of you what this industry has gone through the COVID years, where we found negative oil prices for the very first time. And even for those who are in the industry for a long time, 2008, when we started the year like trading at $90 per barrel. In July, August, we were topping $150 per barrel. And at the end of the same year, we finished at $40 per barrel. So this is an amazing roller coaster year. I hope that we don't repeat this in 2026. But as we are seeing and hearing, the analysts bringing forecasts like the oil price will go down, the oil price will go up. So companies are sharpening their pencils so we can make the necessary planning, the necessary adjustments on the roadmap that each company has. Of course, we are talking about major oil companies with participation in several different countries, different projects, prioritizing investments, and we have to, take into consideration lots of ingredients like geopolitics, like market forces, like energy security. Now we see the climate agenda, and of course, the energy transition that's in the mind of every one of us, that we have to care for this planet. So the idea for these representatives to share their thoughts, maybe in a 10-minute interval, they would share a snapshot of their strategic planning with all of us, so we can learn from each company point of view what they have in mind for 2026 and for the forthcoming years coming from their strategic planning. So we will start with Shira, with BP. And we were planning on alphabetical order, but we are having some problems with the slides from Angelica, so we leave Petrobras for the end. And I would like to point out that, Angelica feels more comfortable to speak in Portuguese. I'm sure our guys that are here in the panel will be able to understand their Portuguese much better. So, but we will carry on like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sameer. Yeah.
I just forgot.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sameer. I'd like to thank PPSA for the kind invitation to speak today to you all. It's a pleasure to be here sharing the stage with all of my colleagues, Cristiano, Sohana, Olivier, and Angelica. It's also very nice to see several government officials in the building today as well. So I'd like to first start and just state that if there's anything that we can say with confidence, is that the world we operate in today is very different from the world that we operated in 10 years ago. And yet again, is going to continue to change, and it will be very different in 10 years to come. So the information that I'm going to be sharing with you is a snippet from the BP Energy Outlook. So if you're interested, this is a shameless plug. You can go to bp.com and look at more information. The outlook itself is not a prediction of what likely is to happen or what BP really wants to happen. It's more of a prediction and actual several possibilities of how things could pan out in the future. So we look at the current trajectory, and then we also look at BP below, or the global energy system below 2 degrees. So first, as Samir described, there are a couple elements that need to set the stage with. So geopolitical backdrop. So unfortunately, it's a new era of fragmentation. So over the past few years, we've witnessed a shift in geopolitical landscape. Conflicts in the Ukraine and the Middle East, growing strategic competition among major powers, and expanding uses of sanctions and tariffs have really reshaped global energy flows. What used to be predictable in kind of the demand and supply side is no longer. It's become more uncertain, more sensitive to political developments, and it has heightened, as Samir has said, the importance of energy security. For companies, it really has created an environment that we need to reevaluate risk, exposure, and resilience to the global supply chains. We're entering into an era, really, of altering global investments. Now, talking about planning, so good cue there, is we need to manage uncertainty, not eliminate it. We can't eliminate it. So we have to live in a world of this volatile geopolitical complexity, and it has really pushed us to rethink our strategy. It's increasingly built around scenarios, like I said, the current trajectory and below 2 degrees. It's around sensitivities and really stress testing. So those tools, we can't predict the future, but what we can do is examine how different futures might unfold. And personally, that really resonates with me. I'm a geologist, I'm an explorer, so kind of need to talk about uncertainties and risks. So we do prepare for the uncertainty rather than try and resist it. So talking about the energy transition. So the energy transition is all about adapting and adaptability. All of this is happening alongside a really significant structural shift in the global energy systems from the Industrial Revolution. It's really the rise of low carbon energy. So the industry is adapting by 3 really main ways. First, diversifying energy portfolios, so increased investment in the likes of wind and solar, EV charging, hydrogen, biofuels, and carbon capture. This isn't because traditional energy is disappearing overnight, but it's really because we're moving towards this low carbon system. Second, electrification and digitalization. So the energy demand is set to double by 2050, driven by industry, buildings, transport, and the rapid growth of data centers. The third, building resilience across supply chains. The energy transition relies on new materials, new manufacturing capacity, and global networks that are still really evolving today. So many companies are diversifying suppliers, actually reshoring critical components, and strengthening partnerships to try and mitigate against this geopolitical risk. However, it needs to be a balanced view. Oil and gas, it still matters. It really is even in the transition. Oil continues to play a major role in global economy. The outlook for oil demand is shaped by 2 kind of counteracting forces. First, the diminishing role of oil in road transport as vehicles become more efficient, more electrified, but this is offset. And that's because of the persistent use of oil as a feedstock in the petrochemical sector. Natural gas plays an absolute critical role as well, especially in power systems, heavy industry, and balancing intermittent renewables. So the challenge is really to manage that duality. We need to continue to supply energy that the world needs today, but then we equally need to build a future-proof energy system for tomorrow. So talking about tomorrow, how do you actually prepare for the future? It'll be more fragmented, more electrified, and definitely more competitive. So again, kind of three themes really stick out. The first being greater regional differentiation. We can expect to see countries moving in different pathways in the transition. This really depends on their resources that they have, the politics, and actually their economic structure as well. Some will accelerate in electrification, while others will accelerate or actually focus more on fossil production and export. The second, stronger competition for investments. There are different options in the world, so it's going to remain competitive. The final is a premium on operational flexibility, so from LNG portfolios to renewable projects, from trading capabilities to digital optimization. Flexibility will become a core source of a competitive advantage. So what does that mean in Brazil? So a couple insights here is that I think what we've already seen is that renewables will grow strongly in the next 25 years. Oil demand will continue to grow as well in the next 10 years. Wind and solar equally will double in the next decade. So Brazil is a part of this transition. Hopefully, after painting a little bit of the global and regional picture, I'm going to talk how BP fits in. So BP's role is to kind of work with countries around the world to meet their energy needs. And our strategy really is threefold. First, we are definitely expanding our upstream. The second is focusing our downstream. And the third is investing very selectively and with discipline in the energy transition. So again, I'm going to use Brazil as an example of our strategy at work. We've been in Brazil for 50 years now. We have a diverse portfolio, the map here, and we've been kind of really trying to establish a material and advantaged oil production hub here in country. BP continues investing and scaling in its bioenergy platform, BP Bioenergy, and I'll talk about that in a moment. We're also trying to advance our renewable energy portfolio with discipline here in country. We have a strong presence that spans across aviation and marine fuels, power and fuels trading, as well as Castrol, which has a brand recognition here in country. This is all supported by strategic assets and partnerships. I can't emphasize that last one more, which is very fitting for being here with PPSA. The company is actively exploring new resources across 6 offshore blocks in 3 different basins. 2 are operated by BP, which are Bumerangue and Tupinambá. And then we have 4 operated by Petrobras. Again, can't emphasize partnerships enough. In August, BP announced its significant hydrocarbon discovery at Bumerangue. We have 100% participation with PPSA as the block manager. The well drilled to a depth of 5,855 meters in 2,372 meters of water. We penetrated about 500 meters of high-quality carbonate reservoir, which was about 500 meters down dip from the crest, which then yields about 1,000 kilometers of hydrocarbon column, of which 100 meters is oil and about 900 is of liquid-rich gas condensate. We're currently still analyzing data. We have laboratory analysis still underway, and we are planning to build insight using that laboratory information to understand the reservoir better, as well as the fluids. Finally, just talking a little bit about our other businesses in country. So last year, we announced 100% consolidation and launch of BP Bioenergy. This company is a leading bioenergy company in Brazil with close to 9,000 employees in 11 mills in 5 different states across Brazil. We plan to continue to scale our bioenergy platform by advancing in core products, including biogas. And then speaking of gas, I'm going to talk a little bit about our gas-to-power joint venture, GNA. GNA consists of two combined cycle power plants, GNA1 and GNA2, with 1.3 and 1.7 gigawatts capacity. It's also the only privately owned LNG terminal in Brazil's southeast region. Together, these projects make up the largest LNG power complex in Latin America, and BP supplies the LNG. So to wrap this up and to conclude, I'm going to leave you with a couple different thoughts. First off, we're living through a period of simultaneous transformation and uncertainty. Pressures of geopolitics, market volatility, and the energy transition are really shaping our industry. The transition is progressing, but it's uneven. We're adapting, we're trying to rethink how we plan, and BP's activities in Brazil, we think, really demonstrate our strategy at work. So thank you very much, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Samir. And thank you, PPSA, for, I would have to say, a gathering of really great speakers today. So I'm very honored to be part of the panel. So today's topic, and I hope everyone can see me well, today's topic is a very interesting one. Because when we talk about the multiple issues that's having right now, so this is where what we like to term as polycrisis, right? Multiple intertwined crises that's actually affecting everyone from economy, public health, environment, politics, and so on. And today, the challenges are affecting, for a lot of us, the bottom line that we're actually seeing today. But how has the world transitioned since, despite all of these challenges? And you would hear this a lot from the speakers and from the secretary today, but I'm just going to quote some numbers and talk about how that actually affects what we're doing and our focus. So imagine this. Today, $11 trillion has actually been spent on energy transition alone since 2010. Yet hydrocarbons still contributes about 80% of that global energy. When we talk about an increasing global energy demand, today, new energy requirement still comes, 2/3 of it, from fossil fuel. Today, we know that the energy needs are being driven by AI. We know that the mining of critical minerals are actually supporting a lot of our lifestyle today, are energy intensive on its own. And so while we are seeing all of this, today, 8 billion, on the 8 billion people that still live, 10% still do not have access to electricity. So when we talk about energy poverty, that's a real situation all around. And what does it mean? And I think Secretary Henato actually spoke about it very well. That renewable comes in to supplement, but today we know that it still does not substitute traditional fuel. We saw what happened to Spain, Portugal in April this year, right? And look at what happened in New Zealand when they reversed the ban on oil and gas. That was banned since 2018 because they realized that now, when we talk about energy needs and the rising costs, it's a real thing. So oil and gas will still remain relevant. To give you perspective of the region where I come from, which is Asia Pacific. So we are the largest region in the planet, where 60% of the global population live. And you would see 3 out of the 5 largest economy in the world resides in Asia Pacific. And it's the home to some of the most lucrative consumer market. And while this region has actually seen an increasing growing investment of renewable, 80% of our energy demand is still coming from traditional fossil fuel. Today, we are still trying to transition from coal to gas. And this is where it's relevant when we talk about all of these global energy challenges and how Petronas has unwavered in terms of our commitment to strengthen our business and strengthening our portfolio based on maybe 3 key pillars. One is on energy security. Today, Shira spoke about it, we see that the world is transition at different pace. And it has to be anchoring on affordability, reliability, and sustainability. And all of that has to be including social justice and inclusive access. And secondly, when we talk about lower carbon growth, we believe that scaling LNG and having CCS as part of a decarbonization lever is super critical. And thirdly, when we talk about strategy in terms of E&P, pursuing advantage barrel growth is important. And we look at not just about value, but also emission. Hence, prioritizing advantage basin, such as for us, Brazil and Suriname, is an important part of where we grow. Let's talk about first, energy security. And in Asia, we are really transitioning from coal to gas. Petronas today is a major gas and LNG player. And today, the country where I come from, Malaysia, we are centrally located within Asia Pacific. Today, Petronas is the 4th largest producer of LNG. So we believe strongly in unlocking gas. And that's why we do not shy away when we actually have gas discovery. And we looked into how do we monetize that towards an integrated value chain. In fact, 60% of our portfolio today are actually gas. But monetizing gas comes with its own set of challenges. And this is where Petronas unlock frontier gas for discovery and trying to bring, especially, marginal gas that's actually, remote and do not have nearby tie-in facility and pipe it back to the demand center. But we were very successful in bringing innovation in terms of commercializing our gas discovery. 10 years ago, in 2016, we became the first company that actually developed and completed our world first floating LNG, moored 200 kilometers away from onshore. But it was not about being first. For us, it's about how do you leverage on frontier technology to enable monetization. And we did that again when we actually relocated our floating LNG 3 years after production onto another stranded field, which proved that we can actually relocate and monetize gas via an LNG solution. In 2021, we deployed another floating LNG solution, and that was the world's first deep water LNG, floating LNG, which harnessed gas up to 1,600 meters. And this is where the success that we see in Malaysia is something that we know could be replicable. And this is the solution of LNG solution that we bring and we strongly believe in, whereas where we're in Egypt, Oman, Canada, Australia, and many others. And this is also exactly the solution that we actually bring to right next door as a major player in Suriname. We've declared our Suriname Selonia gas field commercial, and today we're bringing an offshore gas solution which includes a floating LNG with FID hopefully expected by next year. A replicable solution that we hope to see in Brazil one day. Secondly, when we talk about a lower carbon growth, and this is about producing advantage barrel. Our commitment to net zero is anchored on 4 decarbonization levers: energy efficiency, zero routine flaring, electrification, as well as carbon capture and storage. And this is where CCS is very important to us, especially in Asia, because we know that there's no net zero without Asia achieving net zero. Our CCS strategy is anchored by 1, energy security, Secondly, as integrated energy company, we need to decarbonize across our value chain. But thirdly, we do have ample capacity in Malaysia beyond what the country requires. So that's why our CCS solution is expanded for Asia Pacific as well. So this is where our Malaysia Ministry of Economy is looking at CCS as a new growth sector that could actually bring benefit economy towards the society. And Petronas has been officially appointed by the ministry as a competent technical authority that supports the government in terms of the CCS work that's currently being done in Malaysia at the moment. Today, we are set to be injecting 15 million tonne by 2030. And we are set to be doing one of the biggest injection in the world, a 3.3 million tonne from a single project. In Brazil, we have had a few multi-TCF discovery that comes with a CO2 as well. And bringing the gas to the market would require a CCS solution. So we are not just looking into a technically feasible solution to be doing this, but we also hope to make it commercially viable as well as safe. Our R&D focus in Brazil today with the universities and our technological partner is looking at capture technology as well as injectivity across the Santos and Campos Basin. And we've also just initiated an R&D technology that looks into an air separation unit that can produce oxygen at high purity. And we hope that this could be part of an oxy-fuel combustion that can capture and store CO2 while producing blue electron as well. And today, in fact, over 1/3 of our RDI portfolio in Brazil is actually focused on CCS. When we talk about energy transition, we don't look at it as risks or challenges. For us, it is an opportunity. As an energy superstore, we do diversify our portfolio as well, where we do have a company called Gentari that has well over 8 gigawatt of renewable. We do have matured about 200 kilotons of hydrogen in our pipeline as well. And we do have over 5,000 charge points that we have actually deployed globally within Asia Pacific. This year, we've just launched our Malaysia first locally blended sustainable aviation fuel that meet the CORSIA eligible requirement. And beyond that, for us, nature and biodiversity is not just licensed to operate, but something that we believe in as well. Hence, in June this year, we actually launched a collaboration between Malaysia and Brazil on carbon sink project through mangrove as well. So we do believe what we see here in Brazil is something that can be replicable on other tropical forests, especially on the global south. We do see great potential how Brazil could actually be anchoring and doing more on this. Hence why, last month, we launched an innovation challenge with the support of ANP to look into more nature-based solution within the country. So again, energy transition for us is not a risk or challenge, but rather an opportunity. So just to conclude, I would like to say Petronas, we are driven by passion towards progress, and we're committed to be a just and socially responsible organization to enrich life for a sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you, Suhana. So, Cristiano.
Bom dia a todos. Obrigado aí novamente à PPSA pelo convite para um fórum como esse. Começando English, né? We said in English. Sorry, I'll switch it back. Starting from the global perspective, today at Shell we see a couple of main forces driving the energy scenarios. Huh? First one, energy security. It's been a massive shift globally in 2021 after the invasion of Russia of the Ukraine territory. Huh? Then there is a growth in the population, over 1 billion people more, 1 to 2 billion people more between now and 2050. And then the energy consumption per capita of someone living in the southern hemisphere is 1/3 of the energy consumption if you live on the northern hemisphere. And there's that direct correlation between energy consumption per capita and quality of life. So the world has a duty to the people that live on the south to provide the same quality of living to the ones that live in the north. Global warming is a reality. I think no one can dispute that. So that is driving energy transition. And all of that with the backdrop of massive technology breakthroughs that are making new technology today viable that were not 5 or 10 years ago. Batteries, probably one big example that we see at the surface as a new technology. I think it's being talked about, energy demand will continue to grow, and it continues to grow. Recently, the EIA have published their updated scenarios, and under the current global policy scenarios, they recognize, after a couple of years, that even oil and gas demand will continue to grow unless massive shifts in global policy. Big demand growth also driven by artificial intelligence. There's a data point here that caught my attention when I got that. By 2030, 12% of the US energy consumption will be driven by data centers and AI. So it's a massive shift in how energy is consumed. And then the other data point that I like to call is I constantly talk about energy transition needs to be done through the demand side, not from the supply side. And energy efficiency, the globe has not made any breakthrough on the energy efficiency. You can see the data on my left, the left side of that chart. We're still at a 1 or 1.5% of energy efficient. Massive effort needs to be done in there in order to allow us to consume energy in a much more efficient way going forward. When we bring that down to Brazil, Brazil has shown the globe how energy transition can be done, at the same time achieving energy security and energy affordability. If you look at the chart on the left side, in many other countries where Shell operates, that chart will be a lot more reds in it. The two areas where Brazil is still lagging behind are primarily aviation and shipping, which has nothing to do with Brazil. It's just a very difficult area for you to transition from hydrocarbons, given the long distances of those two industries. On the right-hand side, you see where the biggest opportunity for Brazil still lies, is in the industry and in transport, where we've made a lot of advances in small vehicles through either recently electrification or a little bit longer biofuels, but plenty more needs to be done in that space here in country. The oil and gas sector continues to be, and will continue to be, and we've seen plenty of data from other colleagues here today, a massive vector for growth in Brazil. The Brazilian Petroleum Institute has a data point, 10 to 15% of the Brazil industrial GDP depends on oil and gas. Billions of dollars yet to be invested in the country. Last year, petroleum was the largest exporter in the trade balance of Brazil, so it's very important to bring dollars into the country, hold exchange rate, and to balance the government budget. So Brazil will continue to be a massive supplier of crude globally. Offshore production will continue to grow in Brazil, and Tabita showed that chart that Brazil can touch 5 billion barrels by the end of the decade. Our global scenario show that it doesn't matter when the peak for oil happens in the world. We believe that the peak for oil will happen in Brazil after the peak oil happens in the globe, because Brazil can reliably supply oil, can competitively supply oil, and then the bottom left chart is just a different way to show what Tabita said. We also have on an intensive basis, a competitive, lower intensive CO2 per barrel produced in Brazil. So we hit the ground in many marks here in Brazil. A lot has been talked about the low exploration activities in the country. I recognize that the government is trying to revert that, the ANP, PPSA, all the government entities, but it's this bottom right chart. For me, it's a concern, if I put my Brazilian hat, not my Shell hat. We are under-exploring in Brazil, so the opening of new frontier and new basins is essential for us to not to allow the massive success of that industry had in the last 20 years to start to decline in the 30s. And we still believe there's plenty of potential in the Santos and Campos Basin as well, but new frontier exploration is essential for Brazil. So what does Shell do? I mean, this is a microcosmos. Brazil is a microcosmos for Shell strategy. We have our large oil and gas business here, second producer in country after Petrobras, in a very strong and very proud partnership with Petrobras. We have a large fuels distribution business and biofuel business through Raízen. We have a energy commercialization company, Shell Energy Brazil in São Paulo, that sells all the products that we produce, oil, gas, and progressively more power. And slowly we're building the steps to create a nature-based solutions business in Brazil through our partnership with Carbonext, where Sohana talked about it. We believe on the massive potential that Brazil has to become a horsepower in nature-based solutions. I've talked about our upstream position. Maybe what I will flag up of numbers on that slide, what I will flag given the time is the investment decision that we made this year with support from partners that are in this room, Total, Ecopetrol, and of course PPSA. Our operated project in the Brazilian pre-salt, former Gato do Mato, now called Orca, which is under construction in Asia, and then a partnership with Modec. I've seen Modec in the room as well, and Technip FMC. Modec is building that asset. I'm going to be visiting that in Japan and China late January. So it'll be a Shell operated 120,000 barrels of oil equivalent starting up in 2029, giving longevity to our operated footprint in Brazil. I've talked about this slide. Maybe one thing that I haven't mentioned, which is, for me, one of the best regulatory policies that Brazil has implemented with the advent of the pre-salt, which is the 1% mandatory investment in R&D, which is generating a lot of new ideas, new technologies that are going to be not only deployed in Brazil, but progressively exported to the world. Shell invest about $100 million per year on multiple projects. 20 to 30% of those now are going into energy transition technologies. Maybe to conclude, energy demand will continue to grow, and oil and gas still has a massive role to play. So Hannah talked about the role of oil and gas in Asia gas in particular to replace coal. Brazil is a front runner globally. I work for an European company. When I show some of the energy matrix in Brazil and the data and the charts, a lot of my European colleagues, they get very jealous. Veronica is here, she probably feels the same. I'm sure Sheila, you have the same feeling on BP. Brazil has done the homework. So we should not allow that debate of one source of energy versus another source of energy to take place in Brazil. Brazil has the potential and should realize the potential of advancing all the energy at the same time. This industry moves the country, is essential to the country, and will continue to be essential to the country so that we can attract new players and new investments. Technology will play a role. I think we are yet to find out what are going to be the breakthroughs into the next decade. And the country is investing heavily in technology. And then to conclude, I have to reinforce that it's essential that Brazil sustain a good track record of fiscal, regulatory stability. Otherwise, global companies like ours will end up investing in different jurisdictions versus Brazil. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the event.
Thank you, Cristiano. So, Olivier?
Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, PPSA, for the invitation. Luis, Tabitha, as usual, energetic presentations. Well, a lot has been said already. I will just, as a frame of reference, I'd like to state the energy as a trilemma that we've seen, especially since 2022, between energy security, energy affordability, and sustainability. Before 22 and the big rise in geopolitics, disturbances, sustainability was front and center, and I think Cristiano made a great point about the shift in the IEA language between I guess, 2020, 2021, and the NZD report and the latest World Energy Outlook is striking. Today, there's a bit more of a saner debate. In particular, this year, if you followed closely the IEA publication, there was one that was interesting on the decline rates of oil and gas, and their recognition that just to sustain oil and gas production, it already takes more than 90% of the investments we are making. So even just to sustain. So it's not just about when peak oil will happen, and still not in the coming years. It's really we need to keep investing, we need to keep exploring, as Shira rightfully said, including in Brazil. And I think there was an important switch in tone from IEA. Sustainability comes also from energy transition. All of our companies have our own view of the energy transition. Some are more focused on gas, some on biofuels. Total Energies resolutely on gas and electricity. So we grow. We've been very active in growing our portfolio. We are growing our energy production this decade by about 4% per year. And our energy mix in 2030 will be about 20% electricity, actually, 40% gas, mostly LNG, and 40% oil. You see, that's kind of this balanced strategy that we try to accomplish to fit within this energy trilemma, but also with a clear care on profitability. Shira said it rightfully. We need to be selective in our energy transition investment, find profitable business models. So LNG has been such a business model for the transition of oil and gas. And now we think we have found in integrated power a profitable business model in this avenue. Others are more in biofuels, and that's another good avenue for the energy transition. But Total is really focusing on integrated power, and Brazil is actually a key country in this strategy. Together with Europe and the US, because of its deregulated electricity market, the strength of the renewable resource, is particularly in the northeast. We feel that we can deploy a profitable business model here. And to come back to oil and gas in Brazil in particular, we've seen the ranking. PPSA is just fourth, but just under Total Energy. I think you'll pass us quite soon. So Total Energy is producing about 200,000 barrels per day today in the country, having grown a lot over the last 10 years. Through 9 FPSOs, 8 of them operated by our dear partner Petrobras, and we've seen all this growth. We've been a part of it and very proud of it, including, as Cristiano said, very proud of the advances in research and development that are being accomplished by the whole industry collectively, thanks to the 1% ANP levy. I'll conclude by talking about the people. I think what Luis was saying about the training of the staff of PPSA, but you can also observe it in ANP. Brazil is very rich in the competency of its regulators. This is a huge richness when you look globally, and that's something that should be really complemented and nurtured. And finally, just like, as Cristiano said, I cannot finish without saying that fiscal stability is key to maintain a competitive investment environment. I think PPSA is very vocal at attracting investment, but then there's external factors that need to work also to provide this fiscal stability. So as Cristiano said, this is a key factor. You can see what happened in the UK with the EPL in 2022 and what it has done to the oil and gas industry there. Those are difficult times for the oil industry in the UK, and especially if you look at the comparison on the other side of the border in Norway, where a very stable fiscal environment has allowed exploration to continue and development to continue. And that's my conclusion. Angelica.
Thank you very much, Olivier. So, Angélica, please.
Bom dia, pessoal. Ainda bom dia. Quase não. É um prazer estar aqui com vocês, apresentando para vocês como é que transição energética se encaixa dentro do nosso planejamento, no nosso plano de negócios, que nós lançamos no final do mês de novembro, e agora aqui vou apresentar para vocês alguns pontos. Nós, no nosso plano de negócios 2630, reafirmamos as nossas principais escolhas. Desculpe. Manteremos o nosso foco em óleo e gás, com resiliência econômica e ambiental. Por quê? Porque nós acreditamos que ainda por décadas, petróleo e gás ainda serão muito importantes na nossa matriz energética, tanto brasileira quanto mundial. Na matriz energética brasileira, a gente já sabe que nós temos uma matriz hoje que é muito limpa, em que petróleo, a Petrobras tem a ambição de se manter com os 31% de matriz primária que ela hoje detém. E como é que ela pretende fazer isso? Ela pretende fazer isso com adição. Adição de bioprodutos, adição de energia renovável, mas por adição, e não por redução da produção de petróleo. Nós ampliaremos o nosso parque industrial para monetizar esse petróleo que hoje a gente imagina que produzirá nesse período de 26 a 30, permitindo gerar valor para a sociedade e para os acionistas da Petrobras. Nós temos a ambição da neutralidade das emissões operacionais, e isso é inegociável. E seguimos buscando a liderança na transição energética justa, descarbonizando nossas operações e gerando novos produtos de baixo carbono para atender a demanda da sociedade. E como é que nós vamos fazer isso? Com bioprodutos. Bioprodutos possuem alta sinergia com as nossas operações, e com o avanço regulatório, ela se torna uma alternativa robusta para a entrada no segmento de baixo carbono nessa próxima década. O biorefino já é uma realidade. Nós adaptamos o nosso parque de refino e hoje já somos capazes de produzir diesel com percentual de renovável com 5% e 10%. Somos capazes de produzir o bunker com 24% de biodiesel. Podemos chegar ao bunker 100, hoje o B24, podemos chegar no bunker 100. E nós lançamos na semana passada o nosso SAF com conteúdo renovável para atendimento ao transporte aéreo, e que já está certificado pelo Corsia. Então, nós temos um desenvolvimento de bioprodutos nossos que estão em avançado estágio, e pretendemos seguir mais ainda nesse conteúdo. Além disso, nós temos o biodiesel. Como vocês sabem, nós temos 3 unidades de produção de biodiesel. Esse biodiesel que hoje é adicionado ao diesel num percentual de 15%, mas que em algum momento poderá chegar até 20%. Nós estamos buscando parceiros que tenham acesso de forma robusta à matéria-prima, para que a gente possa crescer a nossa produção de biodiesel. Além disso, etanol. Etanol é de alta relevância para o crescimento do transporte leve, e ele tem um bom potencial também para o segmento aéreo, porque nós imaginamos que em 2030 nós já teremos uma planta de SAF produzido a partir de etanol, que é o método ATJ. Então, o etanol de baixa intensidade para o SAF é uma coisa em que nós acreditamos e que nós chegaremos lá. Nós estamos pensando em entrar no etanol e nós estamos discutindo com diversos parceiros, mas qual é a nossa meta? A nossa meta é ter um parceiro ou parceiros relevantes no mercado, em que a participação da Petrobras seja uma participação minoritária, para que ela não seja uma empresa estatal. Então, esse é o caminho que nós estamos seguindo no etanol. Da mesma forma, a gente está seguindo no biometano. No biometano, nós temos duas alternativas. Fizemos o lançamento no final do ano passado de uma chamada pública para a compra deste biometano para atender o mandato de biometano. Nós recebemos muitas propostas, cerca de 90 propostas para biometano. Reduzimos, ao longo do ano, nós negociamos com essas empresas, já reduzimos esse volume de possíveis parceiros nesse contexto de compra de Segob ou compra de biometano para cerca de 19. Estamos aguardando a definição de qual efetivamente seria o percentual disso para o mandato de 2026. Definido agora que é 0,25%, ainda falta a definição de quando começaremos com isso. Adicionalmente, estamos negociando parcerias também em produção de biometano. Petrobras pretende entrar no mercado de biometano da mesma forma que pretendemos entrar no etanol, em parceria minoritária com um ente relevante do mercado. E nós temos a questão da geração renovável. Geração renovável também está no nosso pipeline. Talvez não com uma relevância nesse primeiro momento, mas não significa que a gente não vá e não esteja negociando com parceiros essa participação em renováveis, mas a gente acredita que mais para o final desse horizonte do plano é que a renovável vai ser mais importante, por conta do que hoje nós temos um volume de energia renovável bastante intenso já em operação no mercado. Nossa meta é de chegar ao final do período com 1,7 gigawatts de energia renovável na nossa matriz. E essa energia pode ser eólica ou solar, não temos nenhuma limitação, estamos buscando. Acreditamos que é necessário, para que tenha estabilidade no grid, que a gente tenha armazenamento de energia. Por isso, estamos investindo e buscando parceiros para entrar no leilão de armazenamento de energia, que vai acontecer em abril do ano que vem. Estamos olhando como é que está o edital e estamos para contribuir e para ver se é possível, já no próximo leilão, participar. Mas entendemos que seja de extrema relevância a questão do armazenamento de energia. Além disso, nós temos o CCUS. Nós já temos, desde 2015, que já fazemos captura de carbono para nossas operações de EIP. Nós já chegamos a capturar cerca de 80 milhões de toneladas de CO2 nas nossas operações. Mas nós agora temos um projeto piloto de armazenamento de CCS, armazenamento de CO2 em caverna de sal. Nós já confirmamos o projeto está em andamento e nós queremos estudar e conhecer melhor como é que a pluma desse reservatório absorve e mantém o carbono lá, assim, armazenado. Nós temos uma previsão de uma planta de hidrogênio que vai acontecer na Replan, na nossa refinaria de Paulínia, até 2029. E eu acho que eu falei de todos, né? E agora, o que está no nosso plano? Em transição energética, o nosso plano prevê um investimento de 13,4 bilhões de dólares, representando 12% de todo o CAPEX da companhia e 8% do CAPEX em implantação da companhia. Serão 4,3 bilhões para mitigação de emissões do escopo 1 e 2, 4,8 bilhões de dólares para biorefino, etanol, biodiesel e biometano, 3,1 bilhões de dólares para eólica, onshore e solar fotovoltaica, hidrogênio de baixa emissão de carbono, CCUS e outras energias. E, além disso, nós temos uma carteira de P&D de 1,2 bilhão de dólares em pesquisa, desenvolvimento e inovação. É isso que eu queria apresentar para vocês.